What's up, Junkies? Welcome back to another great episode of Culture Junkies Live. I'm your host, Kenshiro, and today we're going to be talking about the Big Red Cheese, Shazam. I got to see it last weekend, so did the great Dadakuji, and a few of my other friends. We're also going to talk about Jordan Peele's excellent Us movie, and also Zack Snyder just won't shut up. So he's revealed his slate of what he proposed was going to be his DC masterpiece of films, so we're going to review that as well. But let me introduce who's going to be on the show with me today. Returning from a little bit of a hiatus, Miss LGZ. How are you doing, lady?
Hi, how's everyone out there? I've been under the weather, but I'm feeling much better today, so I'm glad to be here.
Awesome, great to have you. And from Q Reviews, my boy Q is in the chat, is in the show with us today as well. How you doing, Q?
Oh yeah, I'm chilling. Great to be back. Great to be chilling with the Junkies. Ready to get into some horror talk and some great superhero movies. So yeah, let's get it.
And of course, also joining me are my longtime friends, the great Dadakuji and GQ. How you doing, gentlemen?
Doing well. I'm doing pretty good and having one of these nice.
Oh wait, is that an iced oatmeal cookie I see?
Yes,
amazing. Is that like one of the? Is that an Archway one? Which one is that? Is that Archways?
This is made by Archway. If you guys are out there someday, you can pay me in cookies. But these,
okay.
I lost track of these things for years. I don't know where my corner store where I grew up used to have them. Couldn't find them for years, and then like the local grocery store I live now has them, and I'm just like. And these things are amazing. That's the last little one I have.
Like usually you can find them in the, you can find them in your local Kroger. You can find them in the In-N-Out stores. The In-N-Out stores always got them boys, man. You know what I mean?
Dude, when I go to Kroger, the Kroger near me does not have them. I have not seen them at all. Unless they get sold out every single time I'm there. I haven't seen them in years.
That's,
like at least 8 years.
That's a travesty. That's an absolute travesty. Those, like having those with like a tall glass of super sugary Kool-Aid. I mean, that's living hood rich right there. What y'all know about that?
Sugary Kool-Aid is more like wine. Sangria to be exact.
Sangria.
Yeah.
Like what was everybody like for real quick? Like what was everybody's favorite what was everybody's favorite flavor of Kool-Aid to make? You know, regardless of how sugary it was or whatnot, what was everybody's favorite flavor of Kool-Aid to make?
Tropical Punch.
Oh, my girl. There you go. Yes.
You mean red Kool-Aid?
Don't do that. Don't do that.
It's a red Kool-Aid. Mine is Purple Source Rex, which doesn't exist anymore, but it was like a grape lemonade, I think it was, because it was purple, and I just remember it smelling lemonade-y. And also, you like berry blue. That was my shit.
I always hated those berry blue ones, man. It's like, for me, it was, my brother used to make the mix, right? He used to always do mixes, right? His mix was always grape and red, or grape and cherry, excuse me, grape and cherry. Or orange and grape. Like he loved grape, but grape on its own was never enough. It had to be mixed with something else. So it was orange and grape and cherry and grape. Cherry and grape, I didn't like that. No, dog. Oh wait, Tony Minner's out there in the chat. He's over on Twitch. He says I would mix my Kool-Aid with lemons. Like who does that? Like really? Kool-Aid with lemons?
I say rich people did it. Just joking.
Yeah, they probably did. they probably did. You're right about that.
Kool-Aid with lemons is fine though.
No, it's tasty. It just didn't happen too often, man.
It's like having it like punch. Like, no, man, you don't do that, man. You just get you a couple of packets of Kool-Aid, like liberally pour the sugar in there. We don't measure in the hood, right? We don't measure in the hood. You go by literally, you look at it as you pour it in there, and you stir it up, and depending on how sweet it is, that's how good it is. No, for real. That's exactly how it goes, man. That's exactly how it goes. Beth Griswold, what's up, girl? How you doing? Want to say what's up to Marcus Smith. Fallen Marvel's in the chat. He said he's going to join us on the show in a little bit when he gets himself settled. He says I always mix pink lemonade with strawberry watermelon. What the hell is that? Pink lemonade with strawberry watermelon. Okay, this is a judgment-free zone. I'm not going to judge you. So, how was everybody's weekend? El, we ain't seen you in a while. What you been up to?
So I've just, like I said, I was under the weather. I have been a little sick, but this weekend I went and saw Us a couple times. I went and saw.
Wait, a couple times, not just once, a couple times for the culture.
Yeah, you gotta see it more than once.
Do it for the culture. Yeah. I feel you, girl.
And then Alita Battle Angel is still out here, so I saw that again.
Man, you know what?
And then I saw Captain Marvel again too. Okay.
Oh, you gotta pull for the feminist movement. I feel you. But hey, no, that's not a feminist movie. I'm just joking. I'm not being for real. But
no, it was good though. Yeah. I mean, I liked it.
Right. I still need to go see Battle Angel. I haven't seen it yet. Shame on me. I just haven't had the time. And then, when time did arise and I was able to see one movie, Shazam came up, and then there was another one that came up, and I see that instead. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just I just don't support the culture like I should. Maybe I should have my car. Maybe I should have my car revoked. I don't know. Wait, I just opened myself up for something. I really did. I take that back.
Yeah.
I take that back.
Yeah.
What else does everybody else get up to this weekend? Michael A. Mowat Jr., what's up? How you doing, sir? How you doing?
Well, this weekend did go see Shazam, like we're going to talk about, and It's not really much this weekend, but I just got this little baby in right here. This right here is called the Analog Mega SG, which is a clone system of the Sega Genesis that output in HDMI. It's got
is that the thing that Quiet Mike was showing on his on his feed?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
I pre-ordered it last year, and it was going to be a birthday present for me, and it was kind of a late birthday present because it's 2 weeks after. But still, I can't wait to crack it open and see how it works.
So is that the one like the Super NT where they basically
it's made by the hardware
and then upped it and basically made it better essentially? So it's not emulation; it's really just recreation of the hardware with modern tech.
Well, it's not really recreation. It is emulation. It's hardware emulation where they actually go through. It has what they call a FPGA in there, which, if I remember, is a field programmable gate array, which you program the chip to function like the Genesis or the Super Nintendo or the NES, because they also have one for those that do. So it's, as far as I can tell, it's compatible with every game out there. It's not software emulation, so therefore games that have extra chips in it, and the Sega Genesis only really had one, which was Virtua Racing, and it works on there. It works with the Sega CD, so you can actually connect it to your existing Sega CD and output in HDMI. The only thing it does not do is save backups, but a firmware might come out where you can actually save states. It doesn't play ROMs. You actually have to have the physical cart or what is called a Ever Mega Drive. There's other carts that are, you basically put an SD card in the cartridge, and you put your ROMs on an SD card, and it will play those things. It also came with a little device where you can play Master System games. And apparently later down the line, they're going to be able to do SG-1000, which was also another Sega system, and supposedly 32X. It does not work with the 32X, mainly because of one or two reasons, because you can't plug a 32X in there and feed the video into the system because it's HDMI only. And they didn't program the FPGA to do 32X things, so it does not play 32X games at all right now. So it's just other Sega systems and Sega CD.
It's all shrink wrapped. He hasn't even gotten to play it yet. I know he really wants to get to play it. So this thing is basically, it works with and without the hardware. Is that what you're saying?
It's a Sega Genesis, basically. HDMI Sega Genesis, where you can change various features of it, like the output. You can have it in 1080, 724, 80p. You can change the actual megahertz, because as a lot of people may or may not know, back in the day, the systems, even though we call it 60 hertz. That's where we get our 60 frames a second or 30 frames or 6 frames a second. It doesn't exactly do 60 hertz. It does 59 point so hertz. And you can actually change that variable if you want to, which does change frame rates depending on how long it is. So like every 10 minutes, it skips like 1 frame if you have it on a certain setting. You can change various things with the audio because there was different revisions of the Genesis that had different audio chips in it. The first version had the best audio chip, and you can, fiddle with that. There's other things that there were certain video games that didn't run, like play the music correctly on a second generation Genesis as it did on a first generation, and you can make sure that it doesn't do that, or you can recreate that if you want to for whatever reason. So I mean, it's basically a Sega Genesis with options.
Wait,
and HDMI out.
I got a question over on YouTube asking about, does it play Master System or Game Gear games?
It does play.
Probably not Game Gear, I would imagine.
Not 100% sure about Game Gear because there's no adapter that does that at the moment, but it does come with a Master System adapter. It does play Master System games. I do know that Retron came out with an adapter that was a Game Gear and a Master System and what have you adapter for the Retron 5, and I think it also works on the Sega Genesis. I'm not 100% sure because I haven't plunked down to $60 to test it out. But if that adapter would work with it, we would have to see. I don't know.
So the real question is this going to be the thing that replaces your Sega Genesis in your setup?
Yeah, it most definitely is. As much as I like my Sega Genesis, I, unlike a lot of YouTubers out there, have not plunked down the mad amount of money to have RGB out. Even though the Genesis does natively do RGB out, you have to also buy what is called a frame meister in order to get those crisp visuals. I have RGB to SCART, which was a connection that was only available in Europe and other PAL regions, that is SCART to HDMI. Now, where I can do SCART to HDMI, the upscaler that I have is a cheap little $30 upscaler, and it's just, it upscales it, but it's just, blah. So this right here will make it'll get the crispy graphics like those who spent a large amount of money, like $400 on a frame meister that does the exact same thing. So yeah, my Genesis can get put on display, and that one is going to be hooked up to one of my Sega CDs. I don't know if I'm going to do the Model 1 or Model 2. It's probably going to be the Model 2 because that's the one that's actually hooked up right now.
So watch.
You have a ceremony for that retirement.
Right. And watch.
Get that Genesis a gold watch or something.
So check it out, right? I bet you somewhere down the line, like 20 or 30 years from now, someone's gonna blow the dust off of that Sega Genesis. Is gonna be like that Jumanji game that sucked everybody into the world. It's gonna be just like that, right? Yeah. So anyway, guys, it was a eventful weekend for some of us because we got a chance to go and see Shazam. And, Shazam has been getting some really good positive early buzz. And I kind of predicted that when I saw the trailer. And after seeing the movie, I feel particularly vindicated in my early impressions of the film. The great Adakuji and myself, we saw it. I don't know, GQ, did you see it? I can't recall. Did you get to go see it? Or you weren't interested?
Busy. I was busy.
I knew he was going to say that. Yeah. He had more important things to do.
I was making money to contribute towards my Avengers in-game ticket fund. So
okay, well, I'm
remotely worried about Shazam.
Yeah. Oh God, this guy. So anyway, I had a feeling he'd say that. We can completely disregard that. Q saw it. I saw it. Datakuji saw it. So let's give you some of our early kind of reactions to the film. It's been getting a lot of really positive buzz, and I did a kind of erstwhile review. It's still in the editing bay. I haven't fully put it out yet. I might have said like I was Mars Blackman or something pitching Jordan shoes one too many times, as GQ said. It was so bad that Megashawn said he couldn't even finish watching it because I was saying too many times, but. Anyway, if you can't poke fun of yourself, who can you poke fun at anyway? Right? So, I summed up Shazam in 5 words, and I said it's DC's most authentic film ever. And I'm 100% honest when I say that. So I want to turn it over to my fellow panelists, Q and Daidokuji. Q, you first. What were your early thoughts on the? What were your thoughts on the movie? And is all this positive buzz, early buzz, really deserved?
Yeah, I think so. I think when I seen the trailers, I'm like, okay, well, this could be really super cheesy. And if these two characters don't work between the boy and Zachary Levi, which plays Shazam, if this doesn't work, this whole movie can fall apart, or it can be really funny and dynamic. I think when Zachary Levi appears on the screen, it's just automatic magic. You know what I'm saying? I think that's when the movie works the best, when they got their two characters together. Now, Billy Batson, I said that right this time, when he's the child version of it, it's more for the dramatic parts of it. And I think he does fine, but I don't think he does better than his counterpart here, his best friend, the cripple, Freddie Freeman. The cripple, yeah, Freddie Freeman. He was great. He's a great actor. I believe he was in It too. So this kid's going to be a star. His chemistry with Zachary Levi, I think, works the best. Mark Strong here is great. They even tried to give him a little backstory there. And it was working at the very beginning, but later towards in the movie, it kind of leaves him as being a strong character. But overall, this movie was a ton of fun. It's just cheesy, sure, but I enjoyed myself, and it does feel like a movie maybe from the early 2000s era a little bit. But as a DC film, they kind of switched directors completely. That old stuff is kind of out of the door, and we're moving towards the new shaping of DC, if you will. And so as for Zachary Levi, I would watch him again. He was great. And, the dynamic with the kid, I thought it was really fun. Special effects was shoddy at times, some of that CG, when it's close up in camera, when it's flying, they're like rubber people. I've seen that. But this movie didn't have a big budget as of Aquaman. Or things like that. I think this budget was about 100 million, and it shows on screen. They used everything they could to make it good, but just some shots, took me out a little bit. But yeah, overall, it was fun, and I really, really enjoyed Zachary Levi. It had the big element, I think they, no spoilers, they a little poke fun at that a little bit. So
yes, they do. Yes, they do. You're right. Keen eyes. Yes, they did. They did kind of have a little callback to Big in there. You saw it in the movie, and I think going into this movie before, I said it was like Big with superpowers, and that's pretty much the best way you can think of a movie of this type. Is it's Big with superpowers. Everybody loved Big because in a way it calls back to wish fulfillment. When you're a kid, you kind of can't wait to grow up because these adults have all these rules. You kind of want to just be like, I don't want to be beholden to anybody's rules. I want to make my own rules. I want to be an adult. Well, you kind of get your wish. Be careful what you wish for. That isn't necessarily what
greatest American hero feel a little bit too at some points. You know what I'm saying?
I'll have
not
to
in a bad way though, in a good way.
When I watch it again, I'll be able to. I'll look out for that. I'll see that. But let me ask what Daidokuji thought of the film when you were going in. Obviously you're not a comic book reader. You didn't really know that much about Shazam / Captain Marvel. So, what did you think of the film?
Well, I do know he is the original Captain Marvel, and I know the reason why he can't be called Captain Marvel, but I knew nothing of the character at all. So sitting there watching it was kind of like very refreshing, being the fact that I can go into a movie with no expectations whatsoever. And I kind of like that when you go in and have no expectations and you come out satisfied. So yeah, I liked everybody's performance. I think was pretty good. Like you said, Zachary Levi is his name. He did feel and seem like Levy. He felt like some kid who's 14 or however old he is. He felt like that in an adult body. The only thing that I wouldn't say an issue with was just kind of like it took quite a bit for him to actually know what the heck he was doing. I'm not talking about the superhero thing, but he just I think 75% of the movie was just him kind of just having the body but not really doing superhero stuff because he was still trying to figure stuff out. And I understand it, I get it, but then there's other stuff that I'd love to talk about in our spoilers section that kind of was like, okay, so why is this way, but not like this? So that right there will be coming in a future discussion, and I'd love to say more about that. So hopefully the Wednesday after April 5th, we can talk much about that, because I think majority of people that are watching would have gone and seen it, and hopefully we'll just put it out there. We have a spoiler talk, maybe.
Yeah, maybe we will have to do that after the film comes out, and kind of go over, But I just, speaking of all of the principal characters and actors in the film, obviously, like Hugh said, Zachary Levi was born to play this role, because, if you are unfamiliar with the guy he's one of us. He's a culture junkie. He's through and through. Back in the day when he was playing Chuck. That's what made Chuck such a standout for everybody in the culture. Because if you watch that show, it was like watching us on screen in a lot of ways, because he was so nerdy and geeky. He was into comic books. He was into video games. He was into, computers, not necessarily into anime or anything like that. But he was, you could tell he was a cultured man, like not cultured as in, he was, taking in the opera or anything like that. But no, he was cultured as in he's really into, the geek culture. And, whether he's acting in front of the camera or he's, meeting people in real life, that's exactly who he is. Now, was Zachary Levi stretching himself when he was playing this role? No, because it didn't really call for him to do that. He just kind of had to be himself, really, if you for lack of a better word.
I know that suit was stretching, you know what I'm saying?
Right? Yeah. I've had a problem with that suit, from back in the day, because you could tell, they want to make a big deal about, he buffed up and he got, pretty built, but dude, you could tell it was fake. You could tell those.
Yeah, it looked silly on purpose.
Yeah,
I think.
It did.
Sometimes, like when it was like close, and then muscles started buckling this way, and it was still up here. It was like, hey, that's Party City shit. But I forgave it because the movie was fun enough. No, but I was like, I seen it though.
So my friend Edward Kretz is over on YouTube, and he wants to ask, was it as good? At first, he slipped up and said, was it as hood or better than Captain Marvel? Than Marvel's Captain Marvel, but he corrected himself and said, was it as good as Marvel's Captain Marvel?
It's different.
It's different. I can't necessarily say it was as good because it was its own thing. And that's not saying that it wasn't as good or that it's not a quality film, because this film is fun from beginning to end. And you know what else I liked about this film, and you guys can kind of tell me what you think about it as well. What I really liked about this film is that they let the villain be the villain without trying to humanize him. Like Dr. Savannah, they let him be a bad guy, and they weren't trying to get into his motivations or why he's doing this. No, he's just a bad dude. Period. That's it.
Yep, he's just like, hey, I'm gonna be the bad guy.
Right, I'm gonna be a bad guy, and I'm going to revel in being the bad guy, which I really liked. And I was very happy to see, like you said, Mark Strong being back in front of the camera as this, because we missed out on something with him being Sinestro. When he was Sinestro in the Ryan Reynolds failed Green Lantern movie, I thought that was one of the best things about that movie was Sinestro. I thought he looked great. I thought Mark Strong was going to bring a really big gravitas to that film, and obviously it never got to where it probably could have or should have been. But I'm certainly glad to see that he's Dr. Savannah now.
Yeah, he brings gravitas to this role, I think. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
I think he brings the emotional weight that the movie needs as the villain, even though he gets much twirling a little bit, but he brings what it, you know what I'm saying? He brings what it needs. Without him too, I don't think this movie works as well. But they didn't have that strong a villain. He still needs a little work as a villain problem, but overall he brought that gravitas and that real acting in. And plus, this comes from a horror director, and you see some of the some things in there that's kind of really creepy. I was like, I don't know. Yeah, it's fun for children, but like some of this stuff like is dark, bro. I was like, damn. really?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, you know, and you know, I think Dido, you can probably follow up with this too, and say this film is probably one of the films that I think a lot of parents of kids who've been wanting a superhero movie that they can not feel squeamish about taking their kids to. This was it. Like this was, this was definitely it. As far as like, you know, this one's going to be a hit with the kids. My kids, when I took them to see it, even though they're teenagers, they were laughing and entertained all throughout the entire film. So I think that's definitely a win, a plus in the win column for them. Your thoughts?
Yeah, completely and entirely. And I would love to tell the kind of what I think it can go in a certain way if they do this, but that's for a spoiler talk. But yeah, it's definitely something that it can relate to kids and showing them, you know, that, you know, give them something to be like a super. I mean, everybody wants to be Batman. Everybody wants to be Superman, Black Panther, Wolverine, blah, blah, blah. But now they're going to know who Shazam is. They're not going to know him as Captain Marvel. That's not going to happen. But they're going to know him as Shazam. And somebody was like, oh, wow, you know, this kid is a superhero. I mean, most of these kids don't watch the animated DC stuff like we do. So, of course, we have those who watch it and not read comic books have heard of this character. But these parents are going to go into it most definitely. And whatever their kids watch it, because it's not dark at all. DC finally understands, hey, we don't have to do everything. Can you imagine this movie dark? I can't.
No. This movie would have failed had they tried to make it dark. No, and I'm certainly glad that they've avoided that pitfall. But you know, before we move on, real quick, you know, I thought was the best running gag. The best running gag in the film was him trying to figure out what the hell his superhero name was gonna be. I thought that was the dopest running gag in the entire film. I thought that was great. So
I'm just surprised they didn't drop the Captain Marvel thing just by shits and giggles.
Yeah. I thought that
would have been freaking hilarious.
Yeah, I thought that would have been really cool.
From my understanding is they can't call the comic book in the DC world Captain Marvel. Correct. But the character's name has always been Captain Marvel.
That's also
people
correct.
Think of him as Shazam.
Right.
So why wouldn't that have been able to just, you know, call him Captain Marvel? Like, oh, what about Captain Marvel? And they'd be like, nah, that sounds stupid.
I think
or something like that.
At one point back in the day, I think because the previous generation had been had been holding on to the character for so long, they wanted to basically honor their loyalty. But in the long run, I think they just, you know, it was more about brand awareness, and they wanted to stop confusing new readers that were saying, okay, wait a minute, is this Captain Marvel or is that Marvel person Captain Marvel? They wanted to stop the confusion, so they decided to just say, hey, we're gonna do the whole Shazam bit. But I thought it was really cool that they just had that as a running gag. So I want to ask this as a follow-up question: has DC Films officially finally turned a corner? What do you guys think?
I don't know. Ooh, I don't want to be the one that, because like they had 3 good ones, and I don't know if they were actually in a row, because most definitely Wonder Woman, I think, kind of started it.
Justice League.
I like Justice League, but I still can't put that in the same category just because it still held on to a little bit of Zack Snyder-ish. But I really like Justice League. Out of all the Superman, Batman stuff that was in the dark era, that one was still trying to come up in the lighter tone. So to me, it did feel lighter, and I liked it. But Aquaman in this one. So if I put Justice League in there, I would say they seem to understand maybe that some movies need to be dark and some movies don't need to be dark. And I think that they might get it. So we'll see with their next one, which I have no idea what their next one's supposed to be. But I do hear that was a Green Lantern suppostly.
Well, they got Joker coming out.
I forgot about that.
Birds of Prey. I don't know what's up with that.
Yeah, we'll see about that. So, hey guys, Fallen Marvel's here on the show with us.
DC is their tonal shift is working.
Yeah. So Fallen Marvel has joined the show. Well, go ahead, GQ.
They keep turning corners. They ended up right back where they started.
Yeah, that can happen.
Fallen Marvel, go ahead and jump in. Fallen Marvel.
Shazam! What's
Yeah,
up,
right.
everybody?
What's up?
So, the only thing I can really give is just how I overall feel about the film, and just kind of been listening to you guys, which are like 2, 3, 4, and 5 cents have been on the movie. So, I think I've kind of been in the same boat with you, Keenan, as far as how the movie felt and how it kind of had this gleeful feel that the DC movies have been missing as of late, until we got Aquaman, of course. So, I mean, I'm happy to hear that, you know, there's been some really genuinely positive responses to the movie. So when it does come out sometime this weekend, I definitely will be checking it out.
Not this weekend. It's next weekend. Not this weekend. It's next weekend. It's next week. It's next weekend.
Is it?
Yeah, it's next
This
weekend.
weekend is Dumbo.
Yeah, this weekend is Dumbo.
Ah, okay. Never mind. I stand corrected. So, but yeah, next weekend, and I still look forward to seeing it. Dumbo, I'm still kind of on the fence about. I'm not really interested.
I'm not going to go see that.
But
I'm not going to go see that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I am with Dumbo. If anybody was interested, but yeah.
All right.
That's
so then answer this question, then we can move on to the next topic.
Yes.
Based off of what you heard, if this, and seeing how you haven't seen it, if this does, basically sustain its very high Rotten Tomatoes rating, its very high critical appeal, do you think this will officially signal that DC Films have finally officially turned around and turned the corner?
Up to this point, I could probably say yes, but again, if they can continuously do really good movies that don't have to rely on grittiness and darkness, which has kind of been their MO, it could be possible, because after this, we still have the Joker, and then
Birds of Prey,
and Birds of Prey is like the one I'm most worried about.
Same.
So I don't know, because a lot of the things is that I think what's going to be weird, especially when Birds of Prey is coming out, when it comes out, is the fact that we pretty much got confirmation that Suicide Squad 2 is going to be a reboot. So it's kind of like, okay, so where does that put Birds of Prey then? Because it was supposed to continue that whole thing, and then of course Jared Leto, he's gone as the Joker. So
thank God.
Thank
God. No, thank God. There's nothing else said. Thank God.
No,
that's it.
No.
Thank God. No, just say thank God and move on.
I just think Jared was just a very just wasted. I think he was just wasted. So
no.
That's what I can really say.
From concept to execution, his Joker was garbage. Move on. Thank you.
That's not true.
That is true.
Statement.
My whole thing is that because that he was essentially not really part of the story building, it wasn't even like we didn't even really get like a whole lot from his Joker at all. And then what we did get was kind of poorly executed. So it was like for me, it was kind of hard to have a full opinion on him, because we didn't have enough to really go on except from the little bit that we got, and what we got was kind of like, it could have been something there, but they did what they did with the first Suicide Squad, and that's that. So that's all I can say. But just up to this point, like I said, the only other movies we got to look forward to are Joker and Birds of Prey, and that's going to be very telling how they do their movies going forward. And there you go. So I don't know, honestly. And, then of course there's still what is it? Ben Affleck's supposed to be coming back in Justice League 2. Then we don't know what's going on with Matt Reeves.
I don't think that's ever gonna happen. No,
we don't know what's going on with Matt Reeves with
happen.
Batman, and now Ezra Miller, he may leave the role.
Thank God. That's another thank God. That's another thank God. Say thank God and move on. Say thank God and move on. That's it. No, just say thank God and move on. Say thank God and move on.
There's been talk that Ezra Miller might be leaving the role.
Yeah, say thank God and move on. For real. Boom. Just hit the door, homeboy. That's it. Just follow him out the door. That's no dog. He needs to go. Have you seen his running posture as the Flash? What?
Yeah, that last running process. Ooh,
what?
Like,
no.
I would love it.
Out.
I wish they would put the guy from the TV show as the Flash.
But that's not gonna happen.
Really like
but that's I like him too, but that's not gonna happen.
If they would have followed that plan when they first started doing that, it might have been something. But you know, they wanted, you know, Warner Brothers wanted to do their own thing and all that stuff, and that's why they're.
Oh man, I've been in more than a few arguments over this subject. I really don't want to revisit that. Let's get ready to move on, because dude, man, dude. So anyway, right. So all right. So here we go. Jordan Peele's Us film dominated the box office. It had the highest opening for a horror movie ever, but it hasn't been without its controversies. Some people just don't seem to get it. They don't seem to get some of the underlying, themes that Jordan Peele was trying to present. And maybe it could be like a cultural difference thing that some. That more African Americans were getting it, and some of the white audiences weren't. They couldn't exactly put two and two together. But I want to get you guys' opinion, those of you that saw Us, because I didn't get to see it. GQ saw it. I'll lead with him. Is this film just misunderstood because the reactions are so very strongly mixed on it?
I don't know so much that it's misunderstood. I think a lot of people expected one thing from the trailer, then got another thing from the actual film. The film itself is creepy, has a slight twist ending. But all in all, I mean, it was a fun movie. I think the thing with Jordan Peele, and it's always kind of been the thing with a lot of horror / thriller films, it's kind of you watch it once and then you're done with it. And I think that's kind of the issue with me. It's like once you've seen it once, you're good. Just like Get Out. Like Get Out was cool, but I don't need to watch it more than once, because it's like, okay, love the concept, it was great, but now I know everything there is to know about it. It's not necessarily a rewatchable film. But Us, like I said, it was a good film, but beyond one viewing, I don't really need to see it more than once. So I don't know what the controversy is, but the guy's doing a great job. He's about to start hosting the Twilight Zone. So I mean,
can't wait for that.
He obviously knows what he's doing. So I mean, like I said, I enjoyed it for what it was, but as far as a multiple viewing film, it's definitely not one of those for me.
All right. So Elle, you saw it as well. What were your thoughts on it?
So I really liked the movie, only because I think I watched it twice this weekend, and it was because like some of the stuff, for me, I watched it and then I was kind of perplexed. So I had like a 2-hour conversation on it, then went and watched it again, because, it was like certain stuff that I recognized the second time when I saw it that I didn't recognize or didn't acknowledge, or, didn't stick out the first time before I had the conversation with my friends. So it was really good. I think people misunderstand it because they don't, I think, I don't know what people were actually expecting. I think they were expecting like a, run-of-the-mill type of horror movie, and this is not that. It's a psychological thriller, and so it's a little bit different. And I think people are just so used to, like, when they think horror, they think kill, blood, guts, run, that kind of thing, and not necessarily a film that makes you think about, saying it's actual what's going on, saying, or whatever. So, I mean, but I loved it. I loved it. I'll probably go on to it again this weekend as well. So,
okay. So, Q, what do you think about this film, and kind of the reactions it's getting from a lot of the people out there? You did a very, very nice review of Us on Q Reviews. So give us kind of your 2 cents on the film itself, and kind of like why people are misunderstanding it.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much. So Us right now is my favorite movie of 2019. Like I said in my review, I think Jordan Peele now is the new Hitchcock, M. Night Shyamalan, but I think I think he's better than him, even in his early stuff. Just his directorial style, and I can see directly how people won't get Us, because Get Out is more literal. You know what I'm saying? You kind of get what's going on straight off the back. Okay, they taking people, who haven't seen it, they're taking people's bodies, and it's meaning something else. It's a bunch of Easter eggs too you can pick apart. But Us is different. Us is the kind of movie that he took a chance on, and I gotta give him respect for taking a chance on such an original horror movie. I love horror. Horror's my shit. But I'm used to seeing, the white lead, gets escaped from the killer and we're now being stabbed, or some other dimension, slash and sash. This is not Halloween, it had Halloween elements in it. It had Twilight Zone elements, but the movie is disguised as a horror movie to me. I think it's something, without spoiling it here because you can't talk about it too much, but they're saying something about deeply about society, and that's what I really respected about it. But I will see, like, maybe normal audiences won't get what he's trying to say, but yes, I have to buy it on Blu-ray. I have to see it again. I have to break down all the Easter eggs, not to mention Peele Nwago performance was fucking amazing. Best performance of the year, hands down. She's going to win an Academy Award. And now we got our first black horror movie lead. We never had a black horror movie lead, if you think about it in history. And she murdered that. She murdered that role. You know what I'm saying? As a horror movie, and I wish they would have turned it up a little bit. I wish it would have been a little bit more brutal and more violence. Maybe to shock, casual audiences. But the undertones were there, like the chud at the beginning, things like that. I'm not going to spoil you. Just little stuff that was very, very clever. I can't believe this dude came from fucking Key and Peele to doing top level suspense, psychological thrillers like this. You're gonna be hearing from Jordan Peele for a long time. He's like my new favorite director out right now. And Us, yes, I'm gonna see it again before it leaves theaters. But yeah, right now it's my favorite film of 2019. And the soundtrack, boy, they did that soundtrack. That vibe on this shit is brilliant. I just like the layers of that movie. So as a horror movie, I wish it was just a little bit more, but as a film itself, and the Peele Nwago performance takes it up to another notch for me. That's how I feel about the film.
Well, I absolutely love my man's passion. He was killing it in his segment, wasn't he, y'all? He was just killing it. I love that, Q. Very, very great. Thank you for saying that, man. That was awesome. So, Dido, did you get to go see Us? Or no, Fallen Marvel, you got to go see Us. What were your thoughts on Us?
No, I did not.
Oh, you didn't get to go see Us, yes. Okay, so you didn't get to go see Us yet. Dido, did you get to go see Us at all?
I did not, because when I got off of work early, the closest showing was like 6:30, and I got off at 5 o'clock, and I was like, man, if I go home, I'm not leaving. And that's what happened.
Every month, almost all the time, he sounds more and more like an old man. Like, I know if I go home and I lay down, I'm not getting up and I'm not going nowhere. That's what he's kind of like, man. Anyway, so no, yeah. This guy, awesome. But no, standing ovation for Q. That was fantastic. I still have yet to see Us, but I'm really interested. Like GQ said. The Jordan Peele movies sometimes have a, you see them once and you're done with it type of element. And I know that it's that way for certain people, but I know there was a lot of people, especially African Americans, that after that film, after they saw Us, some of them would like sit around and kind of discuss some of the little nods or little Easter eggs that he would put in the movie that were seemingly speaking, just to them and their experience, which I think is very refreshing for them to, to finally have something like that, to where you have a black, horror film director that is, that clever to weave in, those type of elements into the film. And you're basically trying to pick up a lot of those things, under there, the subtext. Like Life is Now says that there's a subtext to his movies, which is very easy to miss. And that's why a lot of people are misunderstanding the reactions. And I get that. Life is Now, thank you for saying that, because that's absolutely 100%, true. You almost have to watch them more than once. And that, and I watched Get Out once and I got it, because it kind of spoke to my experience in a way, my experience in life. But I watch it again just because I enjoyed the movie itself. You know, I haven't seen Us yet. I don't know if Us is going to have that same type of reaction to me. I don't know if I'll have that same type of reaction to Us, but you know, it sounds like it's really good. A lot of people seem to like it, but I get the feeling that some people don't like it as much as they liked Get Out. Is anybody else getting that impression?
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
It seems that way to me, especially based on what I've seen, folks' overall reception of it. And, you know, it's once again one of those things that people go into a movie thinking one thing and then, you know, it winds up being something else. And it's kind of funny because I actually rewatched Key and Peele last month. Mm-hmm. And if it was like no indication, it's like a lot of the skits that they have really have like those insane twists like that by the end of the skit, you know, and stuff like that. So that's obviously the kind of style that like Jordan Peele kind of gravitates to. So if you're kind of like doing something, you know, essentially, you know, your sophomore movie that's, you know, I guess one way supposed to be bigger and better, you know, people kind of have this expectation and, you know, it wound up being something completely different. And, you know, it's like, hey, like it's refreshing for something. It's like you can't knock something just because you supposedly misunderstood it, you know, when there's things in there. I mean, I kind of heard the same thing about what was the movie The Babadook?
Yeah.
And like I heard the same thing about that. That was another movie that was misunderstood because they assumed it was supposed to be like this horror monster movie, but it had like a much deeper thing going on in it, and it turned people off. So maybe it's just a generation of people that just don't really want to be cerebral going into a movie. I don't know. It's like, you know, like me, you know, for me, it's like going into like, you know, a lot of the comic book movies, you know, we go to. Yes, the comic book movies are supposed to be fun, but what people always seem to miss is that like each individual movie that we go to, especially like in just using the MCU as an example, there's a lot of things that people seem to miss. And then when you add, then like when folks like, well, why such and such didn't use this and why such and such didn't say that? And it's like, but you know, it's like you kind of have to think about it as to the reason why, because there are certain things put in place for a reason. And a lot of things aren't just done just because. Like there's a reason why certain things are done. But, you know, I mean, again, like you're talking to somebody that's an aspiring video editor and you know, that pays attention to the storytelling. So I can't think for anyone else. I can only speak for myself, and that's all I'll say.
No, that's a horror movie. I think it's disguised as a horror movie. I think people, they want to see their traditional horror movie. Maybe see Pet Sematary this weekend. That's gonna be scary, jump scares, boo. You know, and that's if it's done well, I'm with it too. But I think Jordan Peele as a film gives us so much more here, and that's, you know, that should be respected. But I can see why everybody else won't respect it the same way. Some people, hey, he could have made Get Out too, you know, and it probably did a good job and it probably been successful. But, you know, he got the power now to really make anything he wants. And he decided to make this. And as I appreciate it for it. And I can see how some people won't appreciate that, you know, they wanted the same old thing, but he gave us something different. And that's a trademark of a great director. And it's glad to have him around.
Now, let me ask you this then, you know, because you have certain people that don't pick up on all of the subtext, and maybe some could accuse him of possibly making his film a little too niche. But you a lot of people still appreciate his talents as an auteur, you know, or as a director. But could his love of subtext impact his success in future movies? You know.
Yeah,
That's just as a question.
It could. It could if it gets way too artsy. If take Christopher Nolan made the Batman trilogy, and he also made Interstellar. That was his passion project, and people don't look at these other movies the same as as that. But he did make Dark Knight, and he also made The Prestige, which was a passion project as well. People responded to that. It's just. These directors sometimes are artists, and I don't know, what you put first. Do you put, you put your art out there first, or, to try to pay the bills? And I think right now he's in a creative space that he can do what he wants and craft his own. He want to tell stories he hasn't seen before, I think. And that's what we're seeing now, I think. And I appreciate that, but I can see how some mass audience, want. They might just want the killer. Like The Shining is insane. Like it came from Stephen King, but Stanley Kubrick kind of did whatever he wanted and made some crazy. I really love that movie, but I can see how people think it's weird and crazy though too at the same time. So I guess to each his own. No.
Anybody else have a thought on that?
All I know is I just want to fight against my double. That would be all sorts of fun.
That actually would be pretty interesting, actually, honestly. Would he be more... Would he be the opposite of GQ? Honestly, how would you fight a guy that's your opposite if he's the opposite of you? Like...
Ask Jet Li.
Well, the thing is, not to give too much away, but the opposites were... I guess they were just more... subtext, sub-level, just more savage than the real people were. But there's a reason for that. So I can't, obviously I can't say anything about it, otherwise it'd go to film. But I think it would be interesting to fight a version of yourself that is nothing but almost instinct and just savagery. Like, just no regard for any human life, just straightforward. You're in my way, you're gone. So
okay. What was a very interesting discussion, and not necessarily, wanting to steer people away from our lovely podcast, but Winston Duke was on The Breakfast Club with Charlamagne and Angela Yee a couple of days ago, and he was actually discussing on there, kind of some of the details of the film that we were talking about, some of the subtext and kind of the differences between the dualities of each of the doppelgangers versus their original counterparts, and how they differed in the smallest ways, but in the ways that they differed were incredibly important. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So if you get,
I saw that interview with Mbaku, and it was very interesting to hear his take on the movie and what they were actually trying to portray, or the message they were trying to send with the film. So, like I said, I kind of with Fallen Marvel, it's like if you're not thinking, or I guess if you don't want to think, maybe this is not the movie for you. But if you are a thinker, it's good to kind of have that. Kind of, to be able to challenge yourself and challenge your thought process against, saying what they portray in the movie and, and what's shown and how it makes you feel and how you're able to deal or process that.
Just critical thinking, just context clues, just, it's there everywhere, man. It's like people that are really serious about their filmmaking. It's like, hey, sometimes you got to think outside of the box. You're like, you can't have everything handed to you, And, a lot of folks don't really see anything past on what they just look at. And sometimes, you have those that maybe miss it first and be like, I think I missed something. Maybe I go back and watch it again, pick up what I missed before. Because, when you first see something, you're not going to get it 100% the first time, 9 times out of 10. Like that rarely happens.
That depends, though. I honestly think that really depends, because, like you said, you're an editor, and I'm also an editor. So it's like there's going to be things that you naturally look for, even while you're sitting there enjoying the film and pulling the story apart and absorbing the story. So I don't think it's always that you can't, get it on the first go round, because again, with this film. Going off of the trailers, sitting there absorbing the story, I understood where they were going with it And I understood the twist because it's like, okay, and I don't want to say anything about it because it's going to give it away. But it's like, if you sit there and you process, okay, here's what's going on. And just like Sixth Sense. Sixth Sense gave you everything you needed to know to understand the twist if you paid attention. Same thing with this film. They gave you everything you needed to know, but most people were going there with maybe one preconceived notion about, oh, okay, it's going to be this, and they're going to be fighting against these evil doubles and blah blah blah. Right. And it's like, well, watch closely. And I think that's what, like, again, like you said, Peele is amazing at that, and he does an outstanding job with that. But like I said, I don't think it's always necessary for multiple watchings if you go into a film and you get past the whole everybody around you and the audience reaction and the oohs and ahs, and you just drill down on that story and what's being shown to you and the details and the nuance.
Right. And I totally agree with that.
And can I just give a shout out to one thing?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
There's like an iconic, so I don't know how people, if you have seen it, if you haven't seen it, I don't know I didn't look up the soundtrack, but there is one iconic song in that movie that has me cracking up for like 5 minutes, both times I saw it. And I was just like, it was so good. That was just like the perfect time, the perfect everything. Like it's great. So everybody should go see it. That's what I will say. Everybody should go see it.
Yeah. Judge it for yourself. Go see it one time and see what you think about it and take it from there. But Jordan Peele got paid. I think it was $12 million budget and over $70 million weekend. They're gonna be all right. He's gonna be all right for the next film. So I'm happy. I just want to see more from that guy. So
that is what I like about his films, though. It's like he doesn't need billions of dollars to make a movie. It's like, dude, he tells stories that are really captivating, and they take place in very few locations.
Right.
It's literally like you got your establishing, here's where you are. The majority of the action takes place, in one major location, and boom, there you go. So I think he's definitely gonna, if he can continue, just making films without, not saying necessarily a formula, but again, the studios love when you can take a small investment and just blow it up. So he obviously shown he can do that. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see where he goes with his next films in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that could have been a Friday 13th movie right there. I mean, it was cabin, small, but he came up with some very creative.
All right, so moving right along, the man that kind of just will not go away. That is Mr. Zack Snyder, who over the weekend kind of revealed his full mad scientist plan for the DCEU that is now pretty much dead and gone. And his full vision for the DC films, as we all know, was a much more harsher take on a lot of the characters that are very much beloved and wasn't very well received. But I'll read a little bit of kind of what he was saying to Stephen M. Colbert about how some of the original ideas he had for Justice League, following up with after Batman vs Superman. He says, and I quote, "The truth is that the nightmare sequence in this movie is always something that I intended to explain, and we end up in a future Earth where Superman has succumbed to the anti-life equation, and there's a few surviving members of the Justice League and a broken cyborg that was working with Batman to send Flash back to warn Bruce," which kind of closes the loop on Batman vs Superman. But there was a scene in the trailer, apparently it didn't make it into the movie, where Bruce says Flash came to him and warned him that Lois was the key and something darker was coming. They worked out a complex and nonsensical time travel formula, but the Earth has to be in the right position when the Flash jumps, or he'll jump back in time into space. And Cyborg asked when Batman wanted to send the Flash back between two windows. Batman said, "Which one would you send him in if you didn't ask me?" And then Cyborg tells Cyborg to do the opposite. Darkseid was supposed to boom tube into the Batcave and murder Lois, which was going to trigger Superman's fall into the anti-life equation. Now, obviously, a lot of this is really dark, and a lot of a lot of stuff, you know, my problem with Snyder and his personification of, you know, Superman and maybe even Batman, it was that he basically just wanted to deconstruct these characters. He didn't even want to build them up to tear them down. He just wanted to tear them down, and that was it. Like, he didn't want any parts of building them up or anything like that. So with what you heard about his proposed plans for the DCEU, what do you make of his proposed slate? Anybody want to go first? Who wants to take this one first?
I'll go last.
Okay, you'll go second. You'll go first. Go ahead.
I get my 2 cents. Zach needs to have a really talented screenwriter of some sort to filter through his ideas, because, like a friend of mine, shout out to Nicholas if you're listening, she was saying that basically he essentially just wanted to do injustice. So it was like, if that's what you wanted to do, that's probably what you should do with, instead of going through like 5 different DC story arcs and compile it in one movie that you essentially didn't even have enough time to really flesh out.
Anybody.
That's crazy because the movie, the extended cut, is almost 3 hours, yet you still had too much to fully flesh this story out, because you wanted to do like things that like will probably fill 3 movies. You know, it's like, dude, just because you want to be a contrarian when it comes to superheroes and whatnot, like, it doesn't mean it's a good idea. Okay, it's like, okay, Man of Steel wasn't exactly received the greatest or whatever, but it was some potential there. You know,
it wasn't terrible. It wasn't terrible. I'll say that. It was a good beginning. It was good. I like Man of Steel too. Ha! Tony Young.
There was some potential there, but it's like, dude, I get that you want that. I mean, I don't know if it's because he's just too hard up a fanboy for Batman and such, or whatever. Maybe that is part of the problem, that he has too much of a hard on for Batman and wanted to do all these gritty things like involving Batman. But it's like, dude, you don't have to do so much to try to make a goddamn point, bro. Like, the first time I watched the movie, I was literally counting how many different story arcs they were doing. And like, I counted between 5 to 6 simultaneous story arcs that they could have saved for future movies. Like, you were doing way too much too soon, and none of it is coherent at all. So it's like, anything that he has to say with concerning this movie, whether he wants to redo his cut or whatever the case may be, it's still going to be the same train wreck that he directed. We still are going to get the Martha scene. We're still going to have the insignificant fight between Clark and Bruce. You know, he's still going to die at the end to try to facilitate the whole death and return of Superman. It's still going to be the same movie. So it's like, anything he says does not change anything about the train wreck that he and Warner Brothers facilitated in making. That's it. That's all.
Okay, and so what I'm going to say to that, I'm going to counter that. I actually, after hearing what he said and what he wanted to do, I think that would have made, you know, killing Lois Lane and like doing all, I think that would have made a better movie, to be honest. I think it would have made a better movie than what we actually got. Now, I know I joke a lot about Batman versus Superman and, you know, all that kind of stuff, but seriously, I think, I mean, because it started at like they wanted to be dark anyway, and then it would just kind of like they were doing dark in Dark Knight, and then it was just like, okay, then like there's supposed to be like an extension of that, and then it didn't, you know, they did Batman versus Superman, and then that was like weird. And so, I mean, actually for me, Justice League, I think would have been better had they gone down that darker path. I think it would have been a better movie, you know what I'm saying? Then it would have gave them like the opportunity to reboot DCU, right? Like, so, I mean, they could have done a few other things with that. I think it would have, for me, I just think, but then again, I like, you know, darker stuff. So, but I mean, I just think that would have been a better path to go down than what they actually did.
Apparently, you do like darker stuff. Apparently.
See, two things about that, L, and I'll be done. See, that's fine if he wanted to do the whole thing with Darkseid and all that, whatever. That's fine, but just stick to one narrative that makes sense. See, that's the problem. He wanted to do too many things at one time, which makes it basically a clusterfuck. Yeah. See, that's the problem. So, like, that's fine with the whole Darkseid thing and the future stuff or whatever. That's cool, but just stick to one narrative. Now, the other thing is, it's like, if you want to be able to tell the story with these characters or whatever, the thing is, you have to allow us to be able to get behind the characters that you're setting up. Because I'm gonna be honest, when I saw that movie, like, I didn't give a shit about anybody.
Right?
That's a problem when you really do not give a damn about anybody that you're seeing on screen. Like, nobody has like any type of hope within their life. Everybody's fucking miserable. You know, this person's mad, this person's angry, this person's depressed. You know, it's like, dude, like, there's only so much like dreariness and grittiness or whatever a person can take in one time. I mean, at least in the Dark Knight trilogy, there were like some moments of like, okay, some moments of some type of humor or glee or something. But once again, part of the problem is that he couldn't stick to a narrative. And like, even with Christopher Nolan being brought up, the problem is that they were trying to replicate the Nolan feel. And you can't really do that without Christopher Nolan. So it's like they tried it. You know, probably one of the reasons why Man of Steel was actually a decent movie was because Christopher Nolan was the executive producer for it. So, but after that, he was done with superheroes. So they put everything on Zack Snyder, and then we got what we got.
Well, I hold on, Key, 1 second, and I'll turn it over to you. But I think you're wrong from this standpoint. Fallen Marvel is that with Man of Steel, he kind of was forced to build Superman up a little bit, and then with Batman vs Superman, he kind of just jettisoned any pretext of developing anybody as a character and just went full tilt into his dark dystopian, you know, wet dream that he was having. Q, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to make a point that did you see the animated The Death of Superman, the newer one? They had a super great scene when Superman sat down at a goddamn coffee shop and talked to Lois Lane for like 3 minutes. And we cared about Superman, and we cared about when he died. It was very essential. It was very important. If you don't give us time to give a shit about anybody in the movie, why should we care? Batman and Superman, I shot on there for a week. I was at Superman's funeral. I'm like, I'm going to be in the best fucking movie in the world. This is going to be the shit. And I seen it, and Rotten Tomatoes came out. It was one of the worst messes I've seen in my life. Trying to spin it because I was in it. I was like, there I go.
You tried to hide that you were in it?
I was proud. I was super proud. I was in my dream, but when I seen it, I was like, Zack Snyder cannot write worth a fucking shit. They do not. Whatever Zack Snyder's writing is bad, and David Goyer, he kind of messes well. Zack Snyder is a very, very talented visual director. Just let him, like he did in Wonder Woman, he directed some action scenes, and that's fine. But once he gets into storytelling, sucker punch anybody, boy, he's messy. He's a convoluted mess, and he's a really nice guy. But man, that's all I wanted to say on that point, man. Don't let Zack Snyder write shit. Just let him direct action scenes, you know, because he's not a very good storyteller. You know what I'm saying, to get us invested in characters most of the time.
Filter this man is what I say. Yeah, filter. Yeah. Just like George Lucas' ass needed a filter.
Absolutely, yes he did. Filter. Yes, he did. So, hey, Daido Kuji, do you have any thoughts about the Zack Snyder slate as it was originally proposed?
You know, I have many thoughts on it. Most of you guys touched all the freaking points because, like, I personally wasn't impressed with Man of Steel. I saw where they were going, and it did have potential. There was just some things that I felt that they should not have done with it. And I retort, they should not have, not retort, I will just say it again. They should not have started Batman from the beginning again because they didn't need to have to retell his origin story again. They basically could have already had Superman being Superman for many years and him having flashbacks while he's saving people. And the same story could have gone with, Zod coming on, but the Earth, the planet already knows who he is. He already knows who he is, and he's there for truth, justice, and the human way since I guess they changed it because, he's for the world, not just America. They could have had that already. I think that right there probably would have made a better movie for me than what they got with them retelling it and him not knowing who the fuck he is and not even being in Metropolis. But regardless of that, it had potential of where it was going. It's kind of like an upward climb. But then, Batman versus Superman comes out and there's no character development and it kind of just shot back down. So even though he was trying to set up some kind of, over the movie, the general narrative, what have you, of trying to do injustice, he probably, like Fallen Marvel said, should have just done injustice. They didn't need to, pick from here, and then try to throw it together. Because, movies are not like buffets. They're not going to work just picking all the stuff on there. You have to be a Gordon Ramsay. You have to fucking orchestrate that shit, know exactly all your fucking seasonings and how they going to work together so you can have a beautiful dish. So he did not do that from the beginning, so it wouldn't have mattered. I don't think it really would have mattered what he would have done. It would have had a shitty fucking Doomsday. And from my understanding, from what I've been told, Doomsday is more badass than Thanos in the comics, at least. And you're going to have a shitty Doomsday on film? Who gives a shit,
I don't have time to basically, deconstruct that whole Doomsday is as badass as Thanos comment. So I will leave that alone. GQ, you wanted to go last. You're going to go last. The floor is yours, my friend.
Well, realistically, Snyder, again, as has been mentioned, is a great visual director. But as far as the storytelling goes and script writing, that's not his strongest suit.
I had to interrupt. I don't mean Doomsday. I'm sorry. Dark Side. Go back.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. That's better. All right. Go ahead.
No, but and what's his name? David Goyer. Both David Goyer and Zack Snyder need to stay away from comic book movies for the next 20 or 30 years.
How about forever? Can we just say forever?
Well, just in general. Yeah. But the issue with Snyder's version of these, these various heroes is, like you said, he's trying to deconstruct them. And it's like you have characters that have been, are kind of a pantheon of gods. You have, the warrior Amazon. You have the godlike Superman. You have the, outright peak human Batman. Mm-hmm. And then you're sitting here trying to break them down. And it's just like, there's not a lot there for some of those characters, especially if you're going to do a little quick 2-hour movie, or you're going to cut out a lot of, storytelling or development, or have them sitting here, have Superman moping around for an entire movie. And then we get to see him in Batman Superman and he's still moping. And it's just like, dude, did we not sit through Man of Steel to get some type of, growth from this character?
Exactly.
So I think that's what the issue is when Snyder is dealing with these characters. And it's just like, you're doing stupid stuff like making Gotham and Metropolis as far away as Detroit and Windsor. I'm like, it's like you can't tell me that Superman, who can go up into the atmosphere and hear every damn thing going on and pick out a car alarm going off, cannot know anything about Batman, and he's sitting basically across the river from this dude for 2 years.
Oh, preach!
So stuff like that makes again, it goes back to what I've constantly said about Warner and DC. If you don't have a grand plan, a laid out, here's what we want to do, here's by 2020, this is the films that we want to have out, this is these stories that we want to be telling. Again, I love to harp on it. Disney did it right. Marvel and Disney did it right. They laid out apparently a 15 or 20 year plan, whatever the heck it's going to be, as to what they wanted to cover, and they've been executing that plan like continuously, and they've made course corrections when they needed to. If you sit here and you're going to just basically try to copy, or because you want to jump on that money train and you have no actual plan, we see where all of their films have been going, because it's like, again, there's no reason Justice League shouldn't have made $1 billion. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely That's absolutely ridiculous, because you mean to tell me the standard, because the Justice League cartoon was a golden standard for a while.
Yes.
Super Friends, everybody knew about Super Friends when they were kids. You know, obviously the younger generation, not so much. But these characters have been the standard for the superhero team, and their film couldn't even make $1 billion. And every Avengers movie has made more than $1 billion. And I guarantee you, Endgame is about to kill it too. So it just shows that the shift in power and the shift in the industry and the shift in people's way of thinking about these characters, because I'm sorry, Superman is a character that everybody knows about, and if you can't handle him properly, you do not need to be sitting in that director's chair, at all.
Absolutely.
Because he's a character that, yes, there's a lot of nuance there, and there's a lot of things you can do with the character. But again, it's a character that is pretty straightforward. He's a glorified Boy Scout with an insane amount of power. And it's like, that's his thing. Yeah, he might have his doubts about humanity and the people that he's saving, but he sure as hell ain't gonna spend an entire movie trying to figure it out.
Right.
So, I mean, stuff like that is the reason I didn't like a lot of the Snyder films, because I don't mind a deep dive into a character, but if the character is as shallow as a puddle, I don't need a 2-hour movie to figure out why he needs to get out of his own way and like Dino said, be the truth, justice, and the human way thing. Because Ma and Pa Kent didn't teach him a damn thing.
Not a damn thing, dude.
This is to me probably the worst version of Ma and Pa Kent we've ever had. And it's
Jonathan, without question. I mean, hey, maybe you should let those kids die. Maybe you should. Come on, dude.
Right. I mean, it's like he wasn't taught any of the values that made him Superman the way he's supposed to be. Now, again, if they wanted to go New 52 route, he's alien. He doesn't get us. He knows he's better than us. Cool, do that. Embrace that. But don't give me this. This is supposed to be Superman, and he's sitting here, crying, about, I don't know what I should do. Dude, you've been saving people from the get-go. Keep doing that.
Right.
You should have
a good idea. Right. Should have saved your dad. Should have started right there.
We ain't even gonna talk about that, because
right. Should have started right there. But now
people to discover you, even if they discover
they got Superman.
Right. I want to make it a very important caveat, to GQ, and maybe you can agree with me on that. You saying that them, laying out and doing kind of what Disney, you don't necessarily mean that they had to do it exactly the way that Disney and Marvel did it with their lead ups, but just have a plan in place. Like, they didn't necessarily have to introduce all of their characters in solo films. I don't think that they necessarily needed to do that.
They really needed to do that, because again, Wonder Woman worked because people were waiting for it for forever.
That's true.
But Cyborg and Flash fell flat on their faces, because the first time you ever even saw them was in an email attachment with their logos already established, because Luthor decided to, he wanted to start a marketing campaign for these various metahumans. So again, it's the reason that they felt so empty is because we had no reason to care about them. It's just like
I would absolutely agree with that. I will absolutely agree with that. Absolutely 100% agree with that. However, I think even moving forward, if they're going to do it the way that they're doing it now, they could treat it similar to the way that their comic books are written. If you think about it like this, right? So you have a Superman book, you have a Batman book, you have a Wonder Woman book, you have an Aquaman book, Flash book, right? There's the story in those titles stays within those titles. There's no crossover or anything like that. But when there's a Justice League book or issue or whatever, those characters are part of it, but none of their individual stories or any of that other stuff crosses over. It stays really contained into that one issue or that one story arc. It stays within there, and that's fine. I think what a lot of people chafe at when they say do it the Marvel way, whereas you've got crossovers with characters going into or making cameos in single picture or a single hero films when it's not totally necessary. So in that regard, I kind of agree that they don't necessarily need to do it the Marvel way.
Hold on. Not necessary. Show me one example of a not necessary crossover.
Okay, think about it like this, right? So when we have in the Incredible Hulk, you have that cameo with Tony Stark, or you go to
that was to establish that this is a
connected
universe.
And I get that. I understand what you're saying, and I get that, right? But what I'm saying is like, okay, a substantial crossover will be like Black Widow being in Iron Man 2. Where she's in it, and yes, that's where she was introduced. I get that too, but DC doesn't necessarily need to do that. Where you don't need to have.
Yeah, they do.
I disagree. I don't necessarily think they need to do that because their comic books are written that way. That's what I'm saying.
Again, this isn't a comic book. I don't care what it's based on. This is a movie. And if you want to make a connected universe, you got to have some cameos and some crossovers to show that these people live in the same universe. Because damn it, if Batman lives across the pond across the river from Superman, I think their paths will probably cross at some point in their films. So that's the issue I have with again, it's the comic book writer's way of thinking versus the filmmaker universe building way of thinking. If you have a universe where these people coexist in the same universe, many of them in the same fair region of each other, or some of them are damn sure fast enough to get from one place to the other and help out or deal with their various things, I have zero problem with the way that Marvel does that, because it's like, look, Thor, is out, doing his thing on Asgard or whatever, and he just happened to run into the Hulk on Sakaar out there, and they did their Planet Hulk storyline. But at least they acknowledged the fact that it happened. And when they came back for Avengers Infinity War, the stuff that we saw in that film, they didn't need a big, huge, to do, but they at least made mention of it, or at least they acknowledged the fact that it's there. That way those characters are growing before our eyes versus... Dude, I've spent the last 15, days or 15, months fighting Skrulls or whatever in my book over here. But none of that matters once I jump into the Justice League, because that didn't really happen. My character's now completely, sanitized, and I'm so again.
I like the way he put that.
Right. When you have a plan, you can do that.
Go ahead.
Let me just mention this, because Marvel did that same thing with Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Daredevil, and that other one that I really, really hate. All those people apparently lived in Hell's Kitchen.
You mean Iron Fist? You talking about Iron Fist? They lived in Manhattan.
But I'm saying, again, all that stuff that was going on, and the only people that were linked together were Jessica Jones and Luke Cage. That's only because they were screwing. Outside of that, it was everything was independent until season 2 or season 3. I didn't like that. I mean, I hate that. That was dumb. I agree, but I mean, it's just. I mean, I don't understand how that's different from.
Who was in charge of doing those? Was that Marvel, or was that somebody else?
That is Marvel.
I thought that was Netflix and all their little stuff.
Well, technically, actually, it was Marvel Television.
In association with Marvel.
In association with Marvel, yeah. So it was really Marvel Television.
That's not MCU then. That's whatever.
They say. I mean, it's very loosely connected. So
MCU stuck their fingers in the ABC's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That's all I need to see.
See, but my thing with the movie is before it became Batman v Superman, we all assumed it was going to be Man of Steel 2, whatever, right? So my whole thing is okay.
Should have been.
So my whole thing is this, as far as quote unquote crossover or just character building. See, they could have done. And it could have just been a slight nuance to what, it would transition to whatever the other property we're going to go into. See, they could have just did Man of Steel 2, probably just had an Easter egg where you see Wayne Enterprises in Metropolis or whatever, but the story is still focused on Superman. And then they probably do something minor that would transition to a Batman film after that. So it's okay, maybe something happens in Metropolis at Wayne Enterprises in the Metropolis location. Bruce has to come through or whatever, or not necessarily that, but just something that's a nuance is hey, that's going to be the next one up. We see this character, whatever, because the thing is that, and we've all said this, talking about these movies, that they were doing stuff that they haven't earned yet. Like, you don't earn a team up after just the first film.
You don't earn killing Superman after one film.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's like, come on. It's like, why are all these people showing up in this movie? It's only your second outing right now. Like, it's like character building. We have to like know who these characters are that you're trying to introduce. You can't just introduce 5 people at one time and we're supposed to give a shit about every one of them. Like,
well, look, let's be fair. Let's be completely 100% brutally honest here. Warner Brothers was arrogant. Like, for real.
Oh,
they were extremely arrogant. They thought because they had the legendary pantheon of superhero characters that they could just slap it together and people were going to lap it up and they thought they would just ride the wave that Disney had established and it was going to push them to $1 billion. And then they got a very big wake up call. Go ahead, Q. You want to say?
Oh yeah, I was agreeing with your point, and then that's why I think we see this huge shakeup over at Warner Brothers with blatantly with Aquaman and Shazam. I think okay, we better not do that, even though they're still looking at the Marvel brand a little bit, even kind of taking a lot of similarities from Marvel to make their new films, but it seems to be working for them now. I think Shazam's going to do good. And of course, Aquaman is hilarious. You say that shit made $1 billion, way more than Batman versus Superman. I mean,
right? Like, right?
$600 million. Suicide Squad made more than Justice League. Put that in perspective.
Man, that hurts. Oh man, my God.
They made 800-something million. Justice League barely cracked 600 million with fucking everybody in it. It was
this Justice League didn't even beat Doctor Strange, dude. Doctor Strange made more money than Justice League.
It didn't beat Ragnarok. It didn't beat shit. It didn't beat Spider-Man. Nobody. It was like one of the lowest. It was bad. Again,
but that goes to show that they didn't build anything that people cared about.
Yeah, exactly. People didn't care.
There's something to be said about being the first to do something. And in Avengers, when they did it, they had everybody hyped for the fact that it's like, we just saw 4 or 5 movies with these characters. And now they're gonna bring them all together into one movie at the same time. And we've had time to learn about these characters. In some cases, start caring about these characters. Because again, I've never been a Thor fan. Thor is my dude now. I've never been a Captain Marvel. And Captain Marvel's interesting. So it's just like,
what?
It's just
he
one of
said
those
Thor
things.
is my dude now. I didn't expect to hear him say that. Wow.
Because Chris Hemsworth plays that character.
Oh yeah,
well.
he's that dude.
He does.
It's like, did you not see Avengers?
Right.
Just watched it again this morning. Yeah, motherfucker is fucking awesome as shit.
Right. Because it's just like, but the thing is, if they would have tried to do Infinity War as their very next movie after they did Iron Man, you know how stupid that would be.
Yeah.
Like, who the hell are all these characters?
Right.
Why is there a raccoon? Why is there a raccoon in the tree in the tree? Well, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Who's the wizard?
That's that's what doing Suicide Squad and Justice League and all these various movies. It's like, dude, you're trying to throw a whole bunch of stuff at the wall and you haven't even fleshed out any of this stuff.
Yeah.
At all.
Don't care. Audiences didn't either.
At all.
No, they didn't. But I guarantee you, Endgame about to be packed.
So, right. So, to sum this up, right, can we pretty much just completely dismiss and banish Zack Snyder to the nether realm and just never hear from him again in regards to superhero films? Can we just basically banish this man to the Phantom Zone and just be done with it?
Because he's still at 300. And 300 was really well done.
No. That's in the past.
Graphic novel.
No, that's in the past. We can acknowledge the past. But I'm talking about the future.
I wouldn't go as far as to banish him to the Shadow Realm just yet. I just think that he really needs to really step down like off this like arrogant high he has.
Look,
and really have a really good talented writer by his side helping him write this stuff, because he's amazing. He's amazing cinematographer.
Oh yeah.
No question. Can't take that away from him. Yeah, no, I can't. I cannot take that away from him. Yeah. So should we just make him in charge of visual effects or visual producer, and the director just basically tells him what to shoot. He's like, here, you point.
Purely similar.
I point, you
like
shoot.
Wonder Woman.
That's
just
it.
like Wonder Woman.
Right.
Patty Jenkins directed
I point,
Wonder Woman,
you
but
shoot.
Zack
That's
Snyder directed some action scenes in Wonder Woman. You know, that worked. That worked. That clearly worked. Just don't let him do shit about a story because it's gonna.
I ain't gonna give him credit for doing what amounted to 3 minutes of film time in the Wonder Woman film and say, "Oh, great job, Zach. Whoa, well done." No, I'm not gonna give him that.
You got to give credit where credit's due, because again, the person that directed the Darth Sidious versus Yoda fight was Steven Spielberg, and he did his thing on that. So
yes, he did.
When a filmmaker does something, I don't give a damn how small of a contribution it is. If it contributes to the film and makes you say, "Damn," that's all they need to know.
All right, fine. Okay,
you can never discount what contributes to a film. Sorry.
Okay. All right, fine. So Zack Snyder can't be excised from banished to the Shadow Realm, but he damn sure better stay away from DC films. That's all I gotta say. And look, he better shut his damn mouth up on Twitters, dude. Man, dog. The only reason we still are talking about Batman v Superman 4 years later is because this dude keeps running his mouth. It'll never go his way because this dude keeps running his mouth. We want to forget. He won't let us forget. It's almost like that Pepper's Farm remembers meme. It's just like, dog, it just keeps on coming back up, dog. For real, man.
Because, look, we've already said it before. Like, Batman v Superman was supposed to be the pinnacle of DC film.
Oh, yeah.
Point.
Oh, yeah.
It was supposed to be. So, of course, when something like that lets you down so monumentally, it's something that we always go back to, because it's just like it's essentially like when, damn it, I can't give a good example. It's that memorable thing to where, like, it's just something so bad, it's hard for them to live it down because they did that.
Well, realistically, I mean, here's one thing on top of that. It's like that movie was teased in I Am Legend as a background poster, and people were
that's right.
They even thought of it, and when we finally got it, it was just like, damn, this is what y'all gonna do? Okay.
Right. Right. There's disappointment all around. So anyway, guys, fantastic show talking about Zack Snyder, us, and Shazam. If you missed any part of the show, if you jumped in late, go ahead and head on over to our YouTube, which is at youtube.com/Culture Junkies, and you can watch the replay of this show, last week's show, 3 weeks ago, 2 months ago, 2 years ago. We've done a lot of shows, we've done a lot of content, and if you like them all, go ahead and do us a favor, hit a subscribe, and then hit the little bell notification so you can know exactly when we put up a new video or when we go live. Because we have a lot of fun entertaining you all, and obviously, as those of you have migrated over to YouTube, that's where the party is at, because you can chat with us almost in real time. What's everybody got plans for this weekend? Now, Pet Sematary comes out this weekend.
Next weekend.
Is it next weekend? Okay, it's next weekend.
Shazam and Pet Sematary go head to head.
Shazam and Pet Sematary going. Okay. Wow. Okay. All right. So,
Dumbo though.
Maybe go watch Us again this weekend. Maybe I don't know. I'll go watch Us for the first time this weekend. Definitely, because I definitely need to check out that one. But last minute news kind of dropped, and we can discuss this a little bit while we're waiting for. To exit the show. Angelina Jolie is going to be starring in the Eternals. Excuse me, the Eternals. What do you guys think of that?
I honestly, if it's for real, obviously Marvel Studios are not playing with this movie already to get somebody like that. And the only thing I can say is, with them bringing in this property with the Eternals, I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing some contests of champions down the line. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
Contest of champions, though? Or what? Just because the game? No. Would Jeff Daniels be a part of it? I mean, not Jeff Daniels. Jeff Goldblum, would he be a part of it? Just because Game Master is one of the Eternals. So is the Collector, really, when you think about it.
I mean, true, but considering that they did them differently, we don't know if they will pop up or not. But we still have the Beyonder. So
you do realize how much money Disney has, right? Jeff Goldblum
They'll find a way.
That's Jeff Goldblum will be a part of it if necessary.
That's true. That's true. They'll find a way to back up the dump truck like they did for Robert Downey Jr. Once upon a time. They'll definitely do that. So anyway, guys,
Grandmaster was awesome. So I mean,
yes, he was. Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
I mean, but people love Jeff Goldblum anyway. So it's just like, dude, just bring him back. That'd be interesting.
Handle Omega says John Cena should be the champion.
No. Stop trying to cast his man in the movie. Stop it.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Anyway, guys, we had a fantastic time entertaining you. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you, like I said, go to our YouTube. No show next week. I have a previous engager, so I will not be able to host. We'll be back the following week after Shazam comes out. That'll be our spoiler show. So, Daidakuji, myself, and the rest of the junkies so we can all talk about some of the spoilers and Easter eggs and things that we saw in Shazam after the film. So that's 2 weeks from today, 8 p.m. Central Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I kind of got them flipped up, but you guys can basically put it together. You know what I mean. Hannah Omega says he'll host the show. You guys want that?
If he wants to.
That'd be funny. Life is a Now gave us a great compliment. He says we're criminally undersubscribed. Hey, you know what you can do? Yeah, you know what you can do to fix that? Share it to all of your friends and tell them all about us, man. So, and bring them all back to enjoy the Culture Junkies Nation, and tell them to join us also on Facebook. But for my friends, GQ, Great Datakushi, Fallen Marvel, Q, and Miss LGZ, I'm Kenshiro. We'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. Peace out now.
Later.